All right, everyone. So for today's session, thank you for coming. We will be walking through a bit about how to use Microsoft Teams to hopefully make your life a lot easier. And hopefully you didn't experience a little technical hiccup like I did before, but if you did, Teams will help you sort it out pretty quickly. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Michelle Arthurs, and I am the Customer Success Manager for my work at Microsoft. Fancy title, but essentially a Microsoft Teams evangelist. And my passion lies with helping people like you all to adopt the tools and making sure that you know how to use it to facilitate what is it that you do best. So without me talking too much about myself, let's jump into the Microsoft world. And the first thing when you think of Microsoft, often it's associated with Office 365. So before I jump into team, let's take a look at our CEO vision of what is Office 365. Now on the screen there is a little picture of our CEO, Satya Nadella, who once said, no two teams are the same, no two projects are the same. There is no universal tool for teams, but rather a universal toolkit that we call Office 365. Now, what Satya means by that is the tools are there to provide the set, the tool for you to use, and every team will need different tool set. So when you think of Office 365, these are the above there are the different applications that you have available to you today, to be able for you to use on your day-to-day routine, whether that's Excel, Word, PowerPoint, so on and so forth. But for today's session, we are going to focus heavily on Microsoft Teams. And what it means is Microsoft Teams will then actually link back to all of these applications and pull them through this single pane of glass. So when I say I'm a Teams evangelist and my specialized area is Teams, I do need to understand all of the other Microsoft services because it all feed through to one platform. So for those of you who've only used Teams once or twice and only happen to be in some of these Teams calls, let me kind of walk through what is Microsoft Teams to you. So Microsoft Teams is a single pane of glass. It brings together all of the features that you would enhance communications, collaboration, customization, and allow you to work in confidence. Now, with communication, it allows you to be able to have your one-to-one chat or group chat with the people that you're working with, giving you the ability to have a wonderful meeting experience like we are doing now. And if in some organization, you'll have the calling functionality as well, which means from your Teams desktop, you can actually make calls out to mobile phones without needing your actual mobile phone. Now, the real differentiator between Microsoft Teams and other tools like Zoom or Google Hangout is the ability to actually allow you to collaborate across your team by integrating other Office 365 apps like Word, Excel, OneNote, Planner, for you to be able to have a space to collaborate, discuss, and have that meeting right within the context of the conversation. Now, beyond those basic functionalities like communication and collaboration, there's the ability to customize and extend and build up on this platform, allowing you to integrate some of the third-party apps that you are already using today, things like Trello, Poly, Miro, any of the application that you're using. It can be used within the space as well. So rather than you having to jump between screen, logging in with different accounts, you can potentially use all of that, access all of that information in one place. Because at the end of the day, Teams is being painted as a single pane of glass. And alone, just like any other application, Teams comes with the Office 365 suite. So it has an enterprise level of security and compliance so that all of your data is safely encrypted, so you don't put yourself into a risk of exposing data to unwanted eyes. Now, once again, if you have any questions between the presentation, feel free to chuck in the meeting chat, and I'm sure Venus or someone else who might know the answer will be able to address. Otherwise, at the end of this meeting, I'm happy to address those as well. So now you have a rough understanding of what Microsoft Teams is. let's jump straight into the application itself. For me to quickly demo to you, give you a live demo, because no point talking about presentation, you won't able to see the tool in action. So hopefully this time around it will work for us. Now, you should be able to see my screen by now. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly, so this is a demo environment, which means any of the data you see here are all dummy data and nothing is sensitive for the purpose of this presentation. But quickly, because I do want to show you the activity tab, because it's a demo tenant, there's not much there for me to show. So I'm going to quickly and cheekily show you my actual one. So if you look onto my screen right now, that's my actual Microsoft account, and this is my Teams app. On the left-hand side, there's some of these you might not see before, but essentially there's activity, chat, Teams, and calendar, and calls and files. These are the icons on the left-hand rail that you should see on your Teams application. And the first thing I do in the morning is check activity. Why? Because that is essentially my news feed. Any notification that happened overnight or anything that I might have missed when I was walking away from my desk, I would have a little icon there. So it's like your newspaper. And so clicking on that, you will see I have a ton of stuff going on. And sometimes if you're on a bigger team, you might miss that information. So what you can do is actually filter that out by clicking on this little 3 lines. Click on the 3 lines. I just want to filter out some of this noise and get to the information that matters most to me. So clicking on the 3 dots, or I can type the filter. I'm lazy, so I'm just going to do a drop and drag. So click on the 3 dots. You should be able to see the different options that you can filter your notification feed. And for me, the most important one usually is the at mentions. For those of you who are not familiar with at mentions, they are there to be able for people to get hold of you, right? And so there's at mention there. Now I'm just going to quickly move screen because some of these data I don't want you to see. Um, so what at mention is allow you to notify someone. So if I wanted to talk to Vern about something in a team space, I could easily go at symbol and type in Vern's name, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. What that will do is when I type up my message in the team space, suddenly Vern will get a notification on activity to say, hey, Vern, Michelle just mentioned your name in a message. Do you want to take a look at that? Or if Vern walks away from his desk or it's overnight, when he wakes up in the morning and when he checked out his activity feed, he will see that, oh, I really needed to get a hold of him. And there's obviously a lot more that you can do within this filtering, which is at mention, anyone who replies to your message before or overnight, any reactions, unread things, missed call, voicemails, and so on. Once you finish your activity, I encourage you to take a look in your team space. This might be an unfamiliar area for most of you if you haven't got a big team and you haven't explored the space before, because most people, their first contact with Microsoft Teams is the meeting experience. You jump into a meeting and then you're off. So what this Teams icon does is it will bring you into a Microsoft Teams space. Now, what I mentioned earlier, these are essentially space dedicated for smaller teams to be able to have a central place to discuss and collaborate and share information. So if you think of emails, occasionally you send an attachment, you send it over to, let's say Anthea, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Anthea, if you want to collaborate with Vern, between you two, you want to create an Excel file or PowerPoint. Typically, you edit something, then you send the attachment to Vern. Vern edits that, changes the name and the version, and send it back to you. Now you have 2 different versions on email. So Teams allow you to have one true master document, and you both can edit at the same time if you wanted to. So when you think of the team space, for me here up at the top, so I've got these are the visible team space that I am a part of. It might look a bit confusing, a bit scary. It's because I have a lot of teams, but as you get used to the concept, hopefully it'll be a lot easier. And so inside a team, treat it as a group of people getting together in one space in order to achieve a common goal. And then within that team, you have these things called channels. And if you think of a team as a box where you chuck people in one place for them to work together, think of the channel as drawers or separate rooms for them to go in to have separate conversations that's related to each room. So in this case, I just created a team called HTK, and I've split them into different channels. The general channel is there by default. So when you create a team, it will be there automatically. Then I've created, let's just look into the general channel so you know what it looks like. It's just a space like this where you can type up messages and share your files. Give me a hands up how many of you have actually gone into the space. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. That's good. So it's quite unfamiliar for most of you. That's okay. So here I have posted a little message just to explain to my team what is the space, why are they in it, and how they can use it going forward. And so I created a little announcement to say welcome and explain how these are being used. So this general channel for general discussions, any question you might have, anything you want to talk to the team about, you just post it in here. This is where you can also find resources and gathers your ideas. The announcement is the space where you want to separate all of those chit chat conversation and just post up important information for your team. It's more like a broadcast. Anyone who needed to get an update on something will go straight there to find out the answer. And then the weekly meeting channel. So when you think of a team, we don't just have a one-off meeting and then we're done. We have multiple meetings week by week to get things done. And rather than having separate meeting and storing your notes in different places, why not creating a space where you can have those meetings, store those meeting recordings, store your notes as well as your tracker until actions. So you can access all of that in one space. Right, so I'll walk you through a bit what that look like. So if you think of this general channel, there are a few things you can do. So first of all, if you look in here by default, up at the top, you will be in the post tab. So these things up here are called the tabs. By default, there's post and files and wiki, but I deleted it. Files is the space where you'll find all of the folders, all the PowerPoint, any files that you share into your team space. So it means that if you created a PowerPoint and you put it into this team, if you leave the organization, the rest of your team can still access that file. If you store it in your personal or computer, and suddenly you leave the organization, the rest of your team won't have access to that. And that causes lots of trouble. So that is a great way, one of the benefits why you should be sharing files inside Microsoft Teams. Down the bottom is just a space for you to go and create messages. So right there, saying new conversation, clicking on that, you should have a space where you're able to type things like, hi, if I want to say hi to Vern and trying to get Vern attention, I will go at symbol and I will type in Vern's name. But obviously, Vern is not part of this team. There are a few people I know that is part of the team. Or I know Andrew is a colleague of mine, which I've added him to the team. His name will automatically pop up. So I'm going to click on his name. I know the tag is working because it's now purple rather than black. If it's black, it's not working, and you got to delete that and redo it again. So I can go, hi, Andrew. What do you think of this team? So I've just created a message there for Andrew to take a look, and he will get notified on a little activity, which will lead him straight to the space. So if you think about it, if you want to start off a thread, so rather than an email thread, you can start a message thread. And you can actually go ahead and create a subject as well. So new conversation once again. If you wanted more formatting, you click on that A button, say format, and it gives you almost like a Word document formatting or email. So you can add more bullet points and format your stuff. If you want to create like the big banners like I did before, like this, then explore this new conversation. There's an arrow. Click on that, and you should see announcement. That will then add a big banner for you to do. And that's like your subject line, your headline. So it could be, how do we make more money? Just, just a thought. And the rest of your team can then reply directly down on that. So once the message being sent in this channel, let me just delete this one for now. Discard. Best of practice, if someone kickstart a conversation, a new message, and you want to reply to that message. So for example, if Andrew come in here and see in my message like that, so when he wants to reply, he won't be clicking on new conversation because he'll start off another thread. To make sure that all of the messages feed under one single card like this, you reply here, not there. There's a reply button for a reason. And some people don't do that, and then it becomes confusing. If I reply right here to say, please reply here. Now, lots of GIFs, because I'm GIFs or emojis, love them. What you'll see how my message now feed under Andrew. Oh, sorry, my original message. So now you have almost like a thread going. If someone wants, want to understand what's going on, what was discussed in that thread, they just need to go to that card and just keep reading the comment rather than multiple things going through. Just think of it like a Facebook post. You reply underneath the post, not creating a new post and trying to reply to the original post. So up at the top, you can customize your tab as well. So adding anything you find is relevant for that channel or for your team. To add in any customized stuff, this little plus button here, click on that. And it should surface up a lot of different apps that you might not have no clue what they do. So I do encourage you to explore to see what's best for you. You might find apps that might be useful or you've used before. Some you might like, oh, what's that? Let me take a look. So I encourage you, you got nothing to lose from just playing around and see what works. You're not going to break anything. If you do, just call it burn. So what I've done there is there's this app called Employee Ideas app. It's for free. And what it does is once you've added, you get two tabs like this. And it allows you to collect ideas across your team. So if you want to run a campaign to say, how do we make more money as a company, you can run that as a campaign, add the end date to that campaign, and anyone within your team who might have some brilliant ideas will be able to contribute to that campaign. So here I could see, oh, these are some of the campaign that is already created for my team. These are just demo, by the way. If I have an idea on how to create a safer workplace, I can click onto this little card and I can add my ideas to the space. So already, if I click on this campaign, I could see that, oh yeah, there's two people who've already submitted their ideas. If I like it, like thumbs up, because that'll make it easier for, let's say, the management team where they look at this, they go, oh, that person has a lot of like for their ideas. Let's take a look. If it's feasible, we'll implement something like that, you know? And to submit the idea is fairly simple. You click on the submit button and just go through the form to create. For the purpose of this session, I won't go too deep on this app. Feel free to take a look in your own time. There's also a YouTube video that you can actually follow as well. The management idea tabs will come along with it, but this is allowing you to be able to create the campaign. So the previous tab is for you to submit. So for those, for people to go in and submit ideas, this one is to manage ideas, and hopefully you'll show up quickly enough. There, so you can go and add campaigns to that. You can see top contributors and top ideas, depending on the number of votings. Any questions, once again, feel free to put it in the chat. We can address that later. If not, someone will be able to help me along the way. So that's the general channel, how you message in a channel, send a post, and how you can leverage some of the application. Let's move on to the announcement channel. So like I said earlier, this is a space for you to send out important updates only. So let's see how we could do that. Once again, going back to new conversation, I can type in anything here, so it can even tell you tap add to mention someone. Now you have the option to mention an individual or multiple individuals, and then mentioning the entire team or the entire channel. So if you have 30 people in your team, you wouldn't want to be typing up 30 people's name. So you would go at. So I would encourage at mention the channel itself. So if I go announcement, you can see the announcements as channel, clicking on that. And then I will add my announcement like, um, everyone is getting a bonus. I wish. Now, once again, going back to our formatting, clicking on that, I have more room or more capabilities to add and make things prettier. If you explore across here, there is this exclamation mark, and this is allowing you to mark your message as important. So when you click on it, it will wrap up the post with red and add in the important label to it. So if your team is scrolling through a busy channel, suddenly that red will pop out and alert them, hey, this is an important message, you better stop and look or revisit later. And you can also post it in multiple channels as well. So if it's more cross company and you have multiple teams, you can also do that so that it feed out to different channels. So you don't have to replicate it every time. There we are. So suddenly there's an exclamation mark and people can reply to it and blah, do whatever they want. But I just want to show you that capability. And let's say you are, where's my team? Cool. I'm going to jump to the resources for just a second. I forgot to add that as one of the channel, but essentially this is a space where I can share all of the learning resources or the guide. If someone new to the company, they can go straight to this channel and quickly upskills themselves or finding out where all of the informations are. Because often it's really hard for new hires, just like, oh, I have nothing to do. I've got everything, all the time to learn, but I don't know where the information is. So you can point into the space. And over time, as you run across important materials, you can always pop them into the space as well. So to upload a file or share a file, you can go ahead and click on New Conversation. This universal paperclip allow you to be able to upload things via your computer, OneDrive, or other teams' channel. In this case, I've already uploaded a PowerPoint from my computer, and that's what it should look like inside your team. And people can just easily click on that and access the tips and trick PowerPoint. Now, if there are going to be lots of sharing of files and lots of messages, and I just want to find a file that someone shared a month ago, rather than scrolling all the way up, I can click on the Files tab. Like I said before, anything that's been shared in this channel, any files will appear under the Files tab. If someone share a file in general, then you need to go to General to see that file. If someone shares something in the resources channel, then you need to go to the resources channel to be able to find that file. One way is to upload the file via post, the tab, in your messages. The other way is click on files and you can upload or create the file straight in Teams itself. So if I click on new, you would have choices on which file you want to create. So rather than uploading and all that, you can create straight into the team space. Now, if I want to make one of these files more accessible, I can actually pin them up at the top as well. So if I, let's say, Microsoft Team Quick Start is pretty important, so what I'm going to do is click on the three dots. A little tips, in Microsoft Teams, every time you see three dots, just click on it. It's the drop-down menu, and it gives you more functionalities. So once I click on the three dots, I will pin it to the top, which means I'm automatically moving some of the most accessible files up at the top here, saving my team some time of having to scroll down the list and trying to find a particular document. I can actually make it a step further, having them have to go to files and then go on to find these. I can actually make them accessible through the tab as well. So if I click on the plus button again, it will surface up more apps here. And so you can actually pin websites as well if you wish, as long as you use the URL, you're able to do that. But in this case, we want to pin a PDF, which is here. By the way, you can scroll down, you see more apps. So I'm not going to confuse you. I'm just going to use PDF here. And I can then choose one of these PDF here, which is Team Quickstart. Save. What that would do then is, because Teams is so important and we all need to know what it is and how to use it, I've made it easier for my team to access that information. There you go. So they can click on that tab and it open up the file right there for them to kind of use. Just like that. So this tab here is really important, the space. So quickly, last but not least, is the weekly meetings experience. What I've done here is, as you can see, I've replicated this post across all the channels so that people, when they jump in, they kind of know, like, yep, what this team's about and how to use this. And yes, you can have a copy query. It's slightly out of date, but you're more than welcome to have the copy. Up at the top, I have two tabs that I've customized. One is called Notes and the other is Planner. Notes is essentially a OneNote that has been created. Are we familiar with OneNote? Yeah. So for those of you who are not, OneNote, essentially, the name, can I say it, is a place for you to keep your notes, virtually or digitally. And so I can have that little book. I don't know why it's called Incentives, but you can change the name. You can add section to it. So in this case, I've got a weekly meeting section. You have the ability to type and have all of this, or you can draw on it as well. So imagine you sit in a Teams meeting, one person and one person only will need to take down the meeting minutes, because everyone will have the ability to access this note. So for those who've been away, they come back, they can review the minutes inside this team without having to bother anyone else at all and catch up to speed. If before you jump into the second meeting, you can go back to this OneNote and see what was made in the previous meeting so that you're prepared for the second meeting. Similarly, I've attached Planner. So I'm not sure if you are familiar with Planner, but once again, Microsoft's great with our team's naming. Our app's naming. So Planner is a great way for you to plan things. And so up here, you can see these are the different buckets. Buckets are essentially outside categories or columns, if you think about it, allowing you to split out your tasks in different categories. So here I kind of made up marketing, finance, and I was laughing, telling Vern before, it's like, what do people do in marketing and finance? So I kind of jot down a few tasks. So I created two. So two different departments to create a task. So during a meeting, we're having a serious meeting here. We need to jot down our actions. I go ahead, create a task in marketing, and it'll ask me for a name. So it could be buy lollies. Because that's what marketing people do. And you set a due date. So making sure that they need to buy lollies before our next meeting. So you can set any time you'd like. Click on a time and you can assign to people. And now they can't say, oh, you didn't tell me that. And so, yeah, it is. Your name is on the card. And so you can choose whoever in the team that you've agreed on to pass on the task to. So let's say pick a random people like Andrew, for Andrew. You can add more people to the task as well if it is a time-consuming one. Add to task, and now Andrew will get a notification to say, Michelle just gave you some work to do. And this is a great way to kind of add action to your plan. Once you've completed an action, all you have to do is just go in and click on this button here, and it will be shown completed. Look at Michelle, she's great, isn't she? Completed everything that you need to do. If you're late, there's a little red button here to say that, hey, it's overdue. Come on, Nick. And Andrew here, as you can see, is half colored, which means in progress. Now, this view is not exactly the greatest to kind of understand where the status of those actions are. So that's where we want to look up here. At the moment, I'm grouping them to buckets. So these are my bucket. Like actually clicking on that, I have the ability to group them to progress, due date, labels, and priorities. So depending on how you want to see, you can change these options. Let's say if we change things into progress, so the status of thing, you could see how many tasks has not been started, how many are in progress, and how many has been completed. I think this view is probably more useful for most people. You can look into the list as well if you want to change the way you look at things. You can look into the board, which is, we've seen this before. I thought chart is pretty useful in terms of visualizing on, color. If you're a visual learner, this might work to see how many tasks is late progress in a colorful format, the importance and the priorities, and who in the team have done what or have not done what. And you can see those tasks on the side as well. To look at the scheduled dates, you could see how long each of these tasks are being assigned for and when they are due based on the format at which you've changed the card. So these are great for you to attach to your meeting channel. Any point you want to have a Teams meeting. To do that, once again, clicks on the plus icon up at the top, which will allow you to add more apps such as OneNote. I think Planner is called Task. Here, Task by Planner. And so just have a play with those. You can add Word, PowerPoint, so on and so forth, and a lot more to it. Now, going back to the post, a great way to create your meetings. Yes, you can send out an Outlook calendar invite that's reoccurring, but then every time people want to access that, they need to go back to Outlook and have that join the meeting. I said before, Teams is a great place for you to have your meeting, record your meeting, and store your information in one place. So I'm going to show you a different way of creating a Teams meeting and how you can host your team meeting going forward. So in Teams, you should have a calendar icon. This reflects the calendar you have in your Outlook because they both are integrated to each other. But any meeting that you create in Teams will become a Teams meeting. It will automatically generate a Teams link for you because it is at the product itself. Now my calendar is pretty empty at the moment. I swear I do work, but let's just click on one of these slots for now. And what it should appear is similar to Outlook. You can add in the title for your meeting. So let's say weekly meetings, right? And then you can add in the attendees. So anyone you want to add to this meeting. This, by adding the name into this field, it will appear in the Outlook calendar as well as the Teams calendar. If you don't put anything in, and then you just add in the channel, so picking up our channel, which is HTK. So I'm going down here, add channel, HTK, and select weekly meeting. It means that I want this meeting to be stored in that channel, allowing people to go straight to our weekly meeting channel to join the meeting. Any of the chat conversation they had during that meeting will be stored there as well. So you're not losing any of those conversations via chat. This week, you join a meeting, you discuss about something, all of the chat conversation will be stored. The next time you join that meeting again from the same place, you still have those conversations that happened before. You're not missing out on any of those information. So now I've added to my meetings. If you don't add the required attendees and you just add it to the channel, people can still access the meeting, but via the channel instead. They won't get a notification in their calendar unless they are not part of your company, if that makes sense. So I'd say just add people to it anyway, and also add it to the channel. So people can have choice to do whatever they want. Then you can go ahead and add in the meeting agenda, because that's always important. Pardon me. I will make this meeting a repeat occurrence. So I could say weekly, because it is a weekly meeting. And I want to jump to scheduling assistance, similar to what you have in Outlook today. And you could see what is the best time and click send. What that will do is it will create a little, if you go back to Teams, it will start generate a meeting inside the channel itself. So I am in the HTK team inside weekly meetings, and there's the meeting that I've created before. That's a team member. I can go in here, click on that meeting. It should appear some stuff. I didn't really add a lot. And I can join by clicking here to join or join there. Similar to how you'll join a meeting today, either via Outlook or via Teams. Fairly simple. I'm not going to join this meeting because if I do, it'll kick me out of this current one. So I'm going to show you the meeting experience right here. So you'll see yourself on the screen and some of you go, ah, that's what I do when I see myself on the screen. So up here at the moment, so we've got a few of you who've got your camera on, which is great. A while back, we only have 2 by 2, which means you can only see 4 people on the screen at any one time. Now, as we improve, you can see up to 49 people on the screen at any point in time. To add a bit of fun to the meeting, if you see that little gallery button up there, clicking on there, you can then change the way you see people. So first is gallery. We can do the large gallery if there's lots of us on the call. Together mode is just a good laugh because it will put us into this view. And, and I can change the scene as well. If you want to add a bit of fun to it, we can all be underwater. And this is why Michelle never do any work. So there we are. So you can have a bit of fun with that, especially if you're just meeting up with people over, for a virtual catch up. Right, I'm going to go back to serious now. Up here at the top, so you see people on the screen, and sometimes the content is being delivered. Some of your teams here as well. So the content is dynamic, so we'll move accordingly to who've got the camera on, who've got the camera off. Up at the top is the participants in the meeting currently that you can see. If you need to invite someone last minute, you can always add them to the meeting and share the invite as well if you want, or dial them in if you have that capability. Not all will have that. Then the chat, obviously. So hopefully you're used to the chat by now. Hopefully you know where to kind of, type. Because I'm not a member, so therefore I can't chat in this meeting. Oh dear. Wait, how do you get to chat in this channel, Venus? That's not fair. Anyway, and this is a great way when you facilitate a meeting as well. Before I said, hey, put your hands up if you've used Teams before. Sometimes a presenter can't really see. What you can do is just raise your hand virtually as well. Or if you click on the clap button, you will see me clapping suddenly. And so when you present, people can click on that button, it'll float up. So if everyone can click on that applause button, see how great Michelle is, you'll see it on the screen. There you go. So you could actually see, and Kerry obviously got her hands up and all of that. So that's a great way to interact with your audience, because the last thing you want is just standing up there and presenting things. Once again, what I said before, 3 dots is always very important. So clicking on the 3 dots, it should present to you more options. Device settings, great. If your headset's not working, something's going wrong, click on device to see if everything is connected, the right things in the right place. If not, well, restart and hopefully you'll be fine. You can look at core health, apply your background effects. So as you know, you can see I've got a little background at the end. So I'm actually in an office environment. So there you go, that's Microsoft Teams. So you're gonna actually click on applied background effects right there, and you can choose the different things. So go and have a play, have fun. You can add new background, which means you can upload your own custom ones. So someone at work, there you go, Vern. When this feature first came out, most of us didn't know, but suddenly he joined a company-wide call sitting in the toilet. And we were like, ah, but obviously it was just a picture. So there we are. Once again, 3 dots, you can hide background effects, turn on live captions. So if I turn that on, hopefully it will translate or transcribe more clearly, depending on the accent and how far you're away from everything. A little transcription should pop up at the bottom there, to help those of us who are not quite quick with following speeches. So you can actually read down at the bottom, which can make it easier.
Wow.
How accurate it is? Well, it's let's say 80%, shall we?
It's really cool.
Oh, let me turn that off before things go south. And then you can turn off, chat bubbles and turn off the incoming video if you've got poor internet connection. So what I do, sometimes I work from home, I can just turn it all off and just pretend like I see people because my internet is just crash and burn. So that's a great way to kind of still be able to be on call and talk. and listen. Here, turn on your camera. Very straightforward. Go off mute. Best practice, make sure camera is off, microphone's off when you join a meeting, just in case. You never know what you're jumping into. And then from there, you can then turn them on. And especially with muting, you don't want to be disruptive to our presenter, especially if you join late. So I always make sure microphone's off. This button here, normally it should be an arrow up for you. It allows you to share your screen or your PowerPoint for anything at all. So at the moment, because I'm sharing, therefore it's an X. Cool. So that is the meeting experience. I'm unable to show you that much more because apparently I'm not a member of the chat, not salty at all. But that's okay. So out here in the channel also, what I've done is I created a poll. So what you can do is new conversation here, find yourself Polly. I have it installed already. It's a little puffin. It is free. You can use it up to 25 people for free. If more than that, I think it will start, you'll have to use the premium version. So if you've got a small little business, great way to make the decision. Here, so let me go ahead and start Polly because I've created that poll before. What you can do is click on Start Polly and basically just enter in things like what agenda item do I want to discuss in our next meetings and what challenges I am facing. Once I've submitted this poll, it makes it easier for the team lead or my manager to be able to build up the agenda for our next meeting as a team. So rather than waiting to everything on the day, on the meeting to actually discuss, why not prep beforehand so we can have a productive meeting? We don't want having too many meetings. We just want to have short and effective one. So quickly to create that poll, new conversation, once again, 3 dots. You can search up Polly. It's fairly easy. So there is Polly. You click on Polly and it should give you a few templated approach. I am super lazy, so I will just pick up whatever I can use without having to recreate. And Polly is great with that. It has some global template that you can pick and choose from already. So one-to-one meeting, all hands, feedback, interviews, meeting prep, all of that you can just grab from and select. Or you can just go ahead, create quiz if you want a fun night, anything along that line. And once you've created it, it just gets posted inside the team channel. It can actually be posted in chat as well, actually. It's pretty cool, but I'm unable to show you that because I am not part of the chat. But it should show up there. Right, so hopefully that will give you some understanding of what's happening inside team, how you can use inside team. Conscious we've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly jump to chat. Hopefully this will be fairly quick. So inside chat, a space for you to connect with your colleague, one-to-one, one-to-many. So to talk to anyone, click on search, type in their name. So Andrew, pick that person and say hi. Now, if I want to grab lunch with Andrew and another colleague of mine, I can go ahead and create a group chat. So how do I create a group chat? Up here at the top, there's add people. So I can go ahead, add another person, let's say Chester, click on his name and add, and suddenly we have a group chat. You can create there or you can create it there. It doesn't really matter. And I can go ahead and say, hi, where do we want to go for lunch? And I realized, oh wait, I might want to add another person to the chat. So I can click on the the plus group again, leave, or just add people. So I add more people. This time round, I have the option to include the chat history or not include the chat history. If we've been talking back, behind their back, we don't want to share the chat history. No, not that we do that. Include the chat history up to a certain date or include all of the chat history. So this is actually quite useful when you're trying to get people, when you're adding people to an existing conversation. Once you've done that, everything is the same as your Teams post, your messages. All of these icon here are fairly self-explanatory. Now, before we jump, apps is where you need to go to explore more of Teams. So here in apps, just have a play. There are plenty of stuff in there. So I do recommend Polly, Planner, OneNote, and yeah, just maybe those three for now. And it should be able to, some of the stuff I show you, that should allow you to be able to play around and add more. If you're using like Jira, Miro, any of that, they should all be available through there. Now, I've shown you a lot of stuff, and I know. So if you need any help, there's actually a help button there. Right in the bottom of the screen, click on help. You go to what's new if you want to find out what's new in Teams, or you go to the training tab. In this training tab, there should be modules that you can follow to be able to do stuff. So either just the basics, how to set up your team, Teams channels, post messages, upload files, and all of that is in there for you to take a look. The UI might be out of date simply because Teams is constantly changing and upgrading, but the core of it is fairly the same. So yes, over to you. If you have any questions, feel free to come off mute, ask anything that you might have.
Just one question, Michelle. We use Dropbox for a lot of our files. So can you upload from Dropbox? Because you were talking about in the Teams just uploading from OneDrive, I think.
Yeah.
Is it compatible?
So I can let me take a look at apps where the Dropbox is there. But what you might have to do is download. You might have to download your files from Dropbox into your local computer and then re-upload it because there seems to be no direct link.
Okay.
What you might be able to do is in your team, you add a tab for the website and then copy your Dropbox address into there so the team in Teams and suddenly click on a tab and they see that Dropbox site.
Thank you.
Some workaround. Anything else?
So with that in Dropbox, would you recommend having just one online storage system rather than having Dropbox and Teams?
I would definitely recommend start migrating your file from Dropbox to Teams, purely because when you create a team, similar to your Dropbox, I guess. I'm not sure how Dropbox works inside of like multiple people owning that space, but I know for individually Dropbox for like one person. So it's the concept like OneDrive. But if you store files into Teams, once again, if someone leaves, your team still have access to that file and you don't lose that access. And plus, if you have a license for Teams already, you should have quite a bit of storage available to you for free. So why pay for storage for another application? I would try to save money in that case.
Yeah, so with every membership of Teams that you have or MS365, you get 1,000 gigabytes of storage, which works out to be the cheapest way to get online storage.
Yeah, that's how you start migrating over. Trying to sell you here, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of research, and yeah, it's the cheapest way to get online storage, and you also get all these cool apps.